So, hello, my beautiful, strong CA, CMA, CS aspirants. Hope you're doing great. Hope you all are fine now, ठीक है? And hope you have started your revision. Okay, if not, तो फिर क्या कर रहे हो जनाब? जल्दी किताबें खोलो, पढ़ना स्टार्ट करो, ठीक है? Exams इतने दूर नहीं है. Okay, so yes, we were doing SEBI regulations, and now we are going to continue it. Okay, so we have done the issue size, okay, where the promoters were contributing, right? Then the reservation, for that they were like two category employees and the retail shareholders, and then was NOTP, right, net offer to public. Okay, so the contribution was for the first promoter, it was 20%, right? So today we are going to read the 20% contribution, okay? I mean the promoter contribution which is done for the initial public offer, right? What is going to be the contribution of which part? Okay, right, we know 20%, but 20% of what? Okay, and in case of further process public offer, what is going to be 20% of what? Okay, so we are going to read it. Okay, now so here the promoters contribution and the lock-in period regulation as per 14 and 16. Okay, so IPO by, in case of IPO by unlisted company, at least 20% of the post issue capital is to be contributed by the promoters. ठीक है, what is this? Now the post issue capital, ठीक है, post as the name says, we know what is pre and what is post, right? बाद में, right? So this share capital which is done after, which is after the IPO, ठीक है, that is what share post issue capital. Okay, so the promoters have to contribute at least 20% of the post issue capital. Okay, and this is for IPO, which is for the unlisted company. Okay, so what about the FPO by the listed company? So yes, so FPO which is done by the listed company, right? We know now unlisted, before it's unlisted company, then they have to listed, okay, then only they are going to become the listed company, right? Now we know the meaning of FPO for the public offer. Earlier I told you about the initial public offer, then for the specified category, okay, of the classes, okay, when it is issued for the very first time, it is initial public offer, and then it is further issued. In that, what is going to happen? It is known as the further public offer. Simple. Okay, so yes, for IPO by, which is done by the unlisted company, at least 20% of what? The post issue capital. Okay, but for the FPO which is done by listed company, because अब वो listed हो चुके हैं, ठीक है? So yes, for this at least 20% of proposed issue or the ensuring share of the 20% of the post issue capital, ठीक है? Whichever, ठीक है? इनमें से anyone, ठीक है? So we know there is a limit of 20%. Okay, 20%. There again two category, ठीक है? अभी तक मैंने two category पढ़ा. There is one more category. Okay, so that was what for the unlisted company IPO. Okay, 20% of what? Post issue capital, ठीक है? So what about the further FPO which is done by the listed company, right? At least 20% of दो चीज़ है, ठीक है? दो चीज़, first proposed issue and second they are saying about ensuring share of the at least 20% of the post issue capital. Now let's go for the composite issue. Now what is this composite issue, right? Composite issue is actually the normal issue with that the right issue. ठीक है, when these two is happening, that is known as the composite issue. Okay, so again 20% of what? We know the limit 20%, but of what? 20% of the proposed issue. सेम चीज़ है ना, ठीक है, जस्ट इससे पहले भी यही पढ़ा था ना. Yes, 20% of the proposed issue or the ensuring share of 20% of the post issue capital. ठीक है. So yes, let's go back, ठीक है. So this we are talking about this 20%, ठीक है, but we should know how this 20% is come here from which part, which they are talking about, the which capital, ठीक है, हमें नहीं पता. So right now we know this, हाँ, ठीक है. So yes, let's go for what is written here. What is and yes, there is one more thing, the lock-in period, ठीक है. Lock-in period is 3 part, ठीक है. This is again 3 part divided. It is actually for the promoters contributed, it's going to be minimum 3 years, ठीक है. This says for the minimum lock-in period is going to be 3 years, ठीक है, for the promoters contribution, but it in case of excess IPO, it's going to be 1 year, ठीक है. But what about the excess FPO? If it is in case of further public offer, but there is no लॉक इन पीरियड हियर, ठीक है. सो नो लॉक इन पीरियड इन केस ऑफ फर्दर PO मतलब FPO, ठीक है. Hope so this part is clear now. So yes, let's go for it now guys. What is promoters contribution in public issue? फर्स्ट इन केस ऑफ लिस्टेड कंपनी 20% याद है ना बस, ठीक है. हाँ जी, आगे पढ़ते हैं. सो इन केस ऑफ लिस्टेड कंपनी, प्रमोटर इन द लिस्टेड कंपनी पार्टिसिपेट आइदर एटलीस्ट ऑफ 20% ऑफ प्रपोज इशू और होल्डिंग द पोस्ट शेयर टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ 20% ऑफ द पोस्ट इशू शेयर कैपिटल, ठीक है. Issue capital, okay. In this, participation of the promoter is done when the issue is being passed publicly. And what about the unlisted? Unlisted पहला वाला part ना, हाँ जी. So yes, that was of 20% of post issue share issue capital ना, हाँ जी. So promoter in the unlisted companies contribute at least 20% of the post issue capital. Promoter also help in shareholding which offers for sale, and it should not be less than 20%. In the unlisted company also security which are issued to promoter at a lower price which is lower than the equity get offered to public and doesn't remain eligible for the contributions, ठीक है. एक और बात पढ़ ले, ठीक है. बहुत आदि saying in the unlisted companies, ठीक है, in case of unlisted company when also securities which are issued to promoter at the lower price which is lower than the equity get offered to public, ठीक है, ऑटोमेटिकली, ठीक है. देन द प्रमोटर्स आर नॉट एलिजिबल टू कंट्रीब्यूट हियर, ठीक है. इन व्हाट केस? व्हेन द सिक्योरिटीज आर ऑफ लोअर प्राइस, ठीक है, लोअर प्राइस लोअर देन द इक्विटीज, ठीक है. इन दैट केस contribution of the promoter are considered by the post issue capital where the promoter contributes through some optional convertible securities and it has been there to the public. And let's go for the blocking of the specified security held by promoter. Their minimum promoter contribution is locked in for कितना period? 3 years from the date of commencement of commercial production or the date of allotment in public issue. Now I know ना वो 3, 1 and no, ठीक है. बट इन केस ऑफ 3, इन केस ऑफ वो प्रमोटर्स कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन, ठीक है. व्हाट अबाउट द 1 IPO का एक्सेस वाला एंड एक्सेस ऑफ FPO नो, ठीक है. नो लॉक इन पीरियड, ठीक है ना. होप सो दिस पार्ट इज क्लियर टू यू गाइस, ठीक है. सो लेट्स गो फॉर द फर्दर पार्ट, ओके. सो व्हाट इज दिस बुक बिल्डिंग? एज आई टोल्ड यू दैट इज what? Discovery of price mechanism, right? So let us know a little bit about it because आगे वाला point is related to book building, okay. So book building is a process that assists the company in pricing their share before going public, right? Price mechanism, discovery of price mechanism, ठीक है. It allows to discount it purchases by underwriters and institutional investor. अब हमें पता है institutional investor कौन है भैया, ठीक है. And they by generating demand for the stocks. So basically what are they creating? Demand create कर रहे हैं, ठीक है. जी हाँ. So what is going to be the advantage of book building? This include the increased interest from the potential investors, effective capital utilization and greater control over share prices, ठीक है. Now we are going for the allocation in net offer to public. We know now net offer to public में three of the people are going to be there, right? So if you know, comment below because मैं already पढ़ा चुकी हूँ, ठीक है. So okay, let's go back, ठीक है. कंफ्यूज नहीं होना. देयर इज रेगुलेशन 6 सबसेक्शन 1, राइट. देन देयर इज रेगुलेशन 6 सबसेक्शन 2, राइट. डू यू रिमेंबर, राइट? देयर वर सम ऑफ द स्पेसिफिकेशन, वो नेट टेंजिबल एसेट, ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट 15 करोड़ समथिंग. इफ द नेम ऑफ द कंपनी इज चेंज्ड देन 50% ऑफ रेवेन्यू शुड बी जनरेटेड, है ना, एटलीस्ट आफ्टर चेंजिंग द नेम. ये सब was related to regulation 6 subsection 1, right? जी हाँ. So we are going for case first, okay, where book building is done. With that, regulation 6(1) is going to happen, ठीक है. This is what the allocation in net offer to public. This is how the allocation of net offer to public is done, ठीक है, which is related to book building and plus the regulation 6 वाला, फर्स्ट वाला, ओके. सो इन केस ऑफ रिटेल इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टर, राइट, 3 पीपल थे ना उसमें, है ना, हाँ जी. सो येस, फॉर द रिटेल इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टर दे शुड बी एटलीस्ट 35% allocation should be done at least 35%. ठीक है, so what about the non-institutional investor? There is 15%. At least 15% should be contributed to allotted to whom? To the non-institutional investors. ठीक है, and what about the qualified buyers? Qualified institutional buyer, which is they are saying 50% should be contributed to this part. Okay, so hope so this wala part is clear now. This is related to book building plus the regulation for 6 subsection 1. Let's go for the 6 regulation book building plus 6 regulation subsection 2. ठीक है, where the allotment same thing. ठीक है, as I told you the allotment is done, right? So allotment is further again divided into 3 part, right? पहले वाला part RII, retail individual investor. ठीक है, second वाला part was the non institutional investors, third वाला part was the qualified buyers. ठीक है जी, हाँ जी. So for in this case earlier what we read ठीक है, यहाँ पे at least they were having at least ठीक है 35%, right? 35% for the RII and for the NII. ठीक है, it was 15% at least. ठीक है, but in case of qualified institutional buyer not more than 50%, can I say? ठीक है, so yes, not more than 50% was to be allotted to the qualified buyers. ठीक है, okay, हाँ, there was one more point guys. ठीक है, from this 50%, ठीक है, not more than 50%. ठीक है, so the allotment which is done to the qualified buyers, from this at least 5% is to be allotted to whom? To the mutual fund, right? We know now qualified buyers में mutual fund was also included ना, है ना, with वो venture capital fund and all. ठीक है, remember the bank, institutional, financial, ये सारे के साथ साथ the mutual fund was also included, right? So from this at least not more than 50% allocation, इसमें से it is to be done contributed to whom? To 5% is to be contributed to mutual fund also. Okay, so इतना is clear ना? Yes, let's go for the regulation 2. It was earlier वाले में at least था. ठीक है, यहाँ पे it's less than. ठीक है, so for the retail individual investor, right? For the retail individual investor, it should not be more than 10. Less than 10 बोल रहे हैं जनाब. ठीक है, it should not be more than 10% allotted to the RII. ठीक है, what about the NII? Same 15%, पर यहाँ पे less than है. Earlier it was at least. Now in case of regulation 6 subsection 2, they are saying less than 15%. ठीक है, 10, 15, and what about the QI? ठीक है, they are at least 75% now. ठीक है, earlier not more than 50, now they are saying 75%. Do you remember? कुछ तो relation बैठ रहा है ना. चलो let's go back and see what are they saying. ठीक है, let's find out regulation 6 subsection 2, right? They were saying book building, right? Second, what they said about the 75% of NOTB, at least 75% of NOTB is to be allocated to whom? The qualified buyers. अब समझ में आया, right? Everything is linked, है ना? So yes, hope so this part is also clear to you guys. ठीक है, so yes, for regulation 6 subsection 2, not more than 10% RII. ठीक है, in case of NII, ठीक है, not more than 15%, but at least 75% is to be allotted to whom? The QIB. Okay, and again same thing, 5% is to be contributed to whom? Allotted to whom? The mutual fund वाले. Mutual fund वालों को नहीं छोड़ सकते अपन. ठीक है, so yes, there is case 3, as there was only 2 regulations. ठीक है, 6 regulation, 6 subsection 1, 6 subsection 2. ठीक है, but there is case 3 where no book building is done. Okay, for this the retail institutional individual institutional should be allotted minimum 30%, which is at least 30%, and the remaining the qualified buyer and the non-institutional buyer can be allotted the balance amount. ठीक है, at least they are saying 30%, so the remaining 70% is to be allotted to these 2 people. ठीक है, non-institutional investors and the qualified buyers, है ना. Okay, but there is one note guys. ठीक है, and the note is saying if the retail investor category is entitled to more than 50% on the proportional basis, the retail individual investor will be allotted that higher percentage. Simple है ना, है ना. When they are allotted more than 50%, then this is simply saying that the investor will be allotted, the retail investor will be allotted the higher percentage. Okay, so hope so this part was clear. Now let's go for the what is written here. ठीक है, in an issue made through the book building process. Now I know the meaning of book building ना, yes. The allocation in the net offer to public category, कौन सा category I remember ना, 3 थी ना, है ना, हाँ जी हाँ, ठीक है. So not less than 35% to retail individual. Let me write NRII here. At least to the non 15% should be allotted to whom? NII. Investors other than the retail individual investor and the qualified institutional buyers, okay, and not more than 50% to the qualified buyers, okay. 5% which is to be allocated to the mutual fund, provided that in addition to 5% allocation available in term of clause 3, mutual fund shall be eligible for the allocation under the balance available for the qualified institutional buyer. समझ में आ गई ना? Yes. So second they are saying this is about the case second वाला part, ठीक है. If in an issue made through the book building process under the sub-regulation 2 of regulation 6, यानी कि 6 regulation 6 subsection 2, okay, they are talking about the regulation 6 subsection 2, the allocation the net offer to public shall be the following: 10%, ठीक है, then 15%, but here कौन सा था, less than 10%, ठीक है, and the 75% is to be, at least 75% is to be allocated to whom, ठीक है, यही बोला है ना, not more than 10% to RII, ठीक है, not more than 15% to NII, ठीक है, not less than 75%, ठीक है, institutional buyer, and 5 of is to be allocated to whom, to the mutual fund, ठीक है, but there is no case 3 written here, but we know case 3 also, ठीक है, 30% is minimum, okay, balance was to be shared between these two people, ठीक है, with whom, the NII and the qualified buyers ना, हाँ जी, ठीक है, and with that 50% was also mentioned there ना, हाँ ठीक है, याद है मुझे, okay. So let's do the revision guys. It's the end of this chapter, ठीक है, this SEBI laws and regulation, they are all other parts जैसे turnover code and all, ठीक है, but that is a different chapter they mentioned, ठीक है. So this part is completed, okay. So we are going to very quick revision now. Let's do it now, ठीक है, and this is going to be the end, okay, fine, and we'll know what is the important point which is to be covered, okay. So yes, we know the meaning of first of all IPO क्या होता है, FPO क्या होता है, प्राइवेट प्लेसमेंट क्या होता है, राइट इशू तो हम जानते ही हैं ना, हाँ, ओके, दोज who know comment below what is the meaning of right issue, okay. So we have read the raising finance from the capital market, okay, which is done by IPO, okay. So what is the primary market and the secondary market, right, okay, ठीक है. For the long term and short term is would be known as the capital market and the money market, okay. For this divided into primary and secondary part, the capital market is divided into these two parts, ठीक है. What the money market is about, we have call money, treasury bill and the commercial bills and all, ठीक है. So yes, types of issue we know, okay, and there are some of the condition which is to be fulfilled, ठीक है. If any of the promoter groups, the directors, the selling shareholder are departed by whom, by the SEBI, ठीक है, फिर तो they cannot access this market, okay, they cannot go for the IPO, the corporate cannot go for the IPO, okay. This point was somehow connected to which part ना, कौन सा, ये वाला part, ठीक है. A public issue of the equity shares is if the promoter and if the director is default, ठीक है, willful default, in that case again they cannot go for this, ठीक है, okay. देखो कनेक्शन कहीं ना कहीं थोड़ा सा ढूंढो तब easy रहता है, we can retain it, ठीक है. So unless application made to one or more stock exchange for listing, ठीक है, if it is not done then जनाब आप नहीं जा सकते हो यहाँ पे IPO में, ठीक है, okay. And dematerialization is to be done, right, yes, ठीक है, and fully paid up is to be done, otherwise आप नहीं आ सकते हैं यहाँ पे, okay. 75% of arrangement is to be done from whom, by the finance, by the institutional, ठीक है, then only you can go for the 25 remaining, ठीक है. This can be done through the IP and all, okay. Before filing of the offer document, promoters holding is in the dematerialization form, we know this, okay, and the amount raised by the issuer for the general corporate should not be exceed by 25%. This is how somehow connected to this वाला part, okay. So yes, willful वाला हो गया. Issue should be done for minimum कितना 3, maximum कितना 10. Minimum subscription is to be 90% of the issue size. Now I know the meaning of issue size, तीन part में divided है ना, हाँ जी. So yes, minimum, what if the minimum subscription is not done, ठीक है, falling in this case, then further 15 days के अंदर the money is to be refunded within the 15 days of closure of the issue size, okay. So what is the meaning of merchant banking, देखो they are providing the facility of कौन सा बैंक वाला merchant banking facility. With that they are also providing consultancy services. Okay, we know what is consultancy services, ठीक है, but these objective we should know what are the objective they are providing. But when what I told you that this part is not that much important, ये वाला part, ठीक है, the categories, ठीक है, I just told you just to know, we should know about the merchant banking. Okay, but for the exam purpose it's not that important, ये वाला part, ठीक है, बाकी सब important है. Okay, जी हाँ. So we know investment banker is also the name of merchant banker, ठीक है. Okay, so what are the conditions for IPO? Regulation 6 subsection 1 and subsection 2, right? So which is again saying about the net tangible asset at least 3 crore कितना 3 year में. Okay, what about the average pre-tax operating profit कितना at least 15 crore, ठीक है. Average of the 3 most profitable year out of the last 5 years. Net worth at least 1 crore. Okay, and what about the change in name 50% से ज़्यादा, ठीक है. Okay, and regulation 6 subsection 2 says about the book building, right? अभी भी अपने पढ़ा है, ठीक है. Book building, with that at least 75% of the NOTP is to be contributed to whom, allocated to whom, to the qualified हाँ जी buyers. Okay, so yes, this is what written here, ठीक है. 6 subsection 1 and 6 subsection 2. What is differential pricing? Now I know, ठीक है, when the price is actually allocated, different prices actually allocated to some of these categories, specified categories, ठीक है. So for the retail individual investor 10% of what? 10% of the maximum 10% of the discount on the price offer, ठीक है. Maximum price, the differential price can be done up to this, ठीक है. Second, for the employee 10% of the floor price can be offered, and for third the book building maximum, which is participation done from the qualified buyers, ठीक है. Here it cannot be offered more than these 2 people, ठीक है. उनसे ज़्यादा हम ऑफर नहीं दे सकते इनको. ओके, इतनी बात समझ में आ गई? जी हाँ, ठीक है. Some of the condition we know, the types of investor, the individual investor and the institutional investor, we know this, ठीक है. Yes, ठीक है. They are also known as the qualified institutional buyers, which is QB we can say, ठीक है, and or QIB. Okay, so issue size again consists of 3 part, ठीक है. PC, ठीक है, हाँ जी, रिजर्वेशन, एंड थर्ड वॉज NOTP 20%, 0 to 20, 60 to 80% was majority done by NOTP, ठीक है. What is this now? NOTP consists of qualified institution buyers. Second, they are saying about the non-institutional investors, ठीक है. Third, about the retail institutional investor. So what is basically the difference between these two, ठीक है. These two में एक ही difference I'll say, ठीक है. When the investment, the small investors are basically the retail individual investor, ठीक है. When the investment capacity is up to 2 lakh, ठीक है, they are contributing, they are investing up to only 2 lakh, then they will known as the retail individual investor, ठीक है. So what about this non-institutional investor? When they have बड़े लोग, ठीक है, ठीक है, they can actually contribute more, ठीक है, which means can I say 2 lakh से ज़्यादा they have the budget, ठीक है. They'll fall under this, ठीक है. बड़े लोग, ठीक है, जैसे अडानी जी, अंबानी जी, रतन टाटा जी, ठीक है. Let's take the example. So they will be classified as हाई नेट वर्थ इंडिविजुअल और दी कॉर्पोरेट, बड़े लोग हैं ना, हाँ जी. सो ठीक है, नेट ऑफर टू पब्लिक इज टू बी कंट्रीब्यूट 60 to 80%. ओके जी, ठीक है. सो व्हाट वर दी प्रमोटर्स कंट्रीब्यूट 20%, बट फर्दर इट वाज डिवाइडेड टू 3 पार्ट. ओके, इनिशियल पब्लिक के लिए, IPO के लिए, ठीक है, एटलीस्ट 20% ऑफ द पोस्ट इशू, एंड देन फॉर द फर्दर 20% ऑफ द प्रपोज इशू और 20% ऑफ इंश्योरिंग शेयर ऑफ द एटलीस्ट 20% ऑफ द इशू शेयर्स, ठीक है. सेम इज ऑल्सो फॉर द कंपोजिट इशू. ओके, सो येस, लॉक इन पीरियड वॉज 3, ठीक है, then 1, then 0, ठीक है. We know this. Okay, what is about the book building, ठीक है. We know this is the price discovery mechanism. Okay, when this book building plus regulation 6 subsection 1 is done, so how it's going to be allocated, ठीक है. The NOTP is to be allocated on 3 part: the retail individual investor, the non-institutional investor and the last qualified buyer. क्या हाँ, यहाँ पे क्या थे 35%, 15%, not more than 50%. Okay जी. For case of 6 subsection 2 regulation 6 subsection 2, they were the retail individual investor, not more than 10, again 15, but not more than 15, ठीक है. But in case of this 75% is at least 75% is to be allotted to whom? To the qualified buyers. Very good. हाँ, from this 5% is to be allocated to whom? The mutual fund, janab. Okay, but what about if there is no book building? In that case, at least 30%. The retail individual investor, ठीक है, and the remaining is to be contributed, allocated to whom? These 2 people. Okay, to NII and QB. Okay, so yes, that's it guys. this was the end of this chapter, है ना. Hope so you enjoyed it. You get a little bit here, ठीक है. It was fun, ठीक है. And if it was informative, what you have to do, hit a like button, subscribe my channel and share to all CMA, CA, CS aspirants, ठीक है. तब तक के लिए क्या करना है, पढ़ते रहना है, मस्त रहना है. ओके, टुडल्स गाइस.